The sound of the announcement echoed through the terminal, flat and cold against the soft hum of evening travelers. Claire stood near gate 14, her fingers wrapped tightly around a small cracked watch, its glass fractured like a spider web. The second hand twitched but never moved, stuck, just like her breath in her chest. People brushed past her, families clutching tickets, lovers saying hurried goodbyes, children dragging toy suitcases, but she didn't see them. Her gaze was fixed on the glass wall ahead, where the orange glow of the setting sun bled into the darkening sky. Beyond that glass, a plane waited, engines low and patient, ready to carry someone far from what had already begun. A chill breeze seeped through the automatic doors as they opened and closed. It lifted the ends of her hair, tugging gently like an old memory she wasn't ready to face. She pressed her thumb over the crack on the watch, tracing its jagged line. It was her father's watch. He'd given it to her the day before everything fell apart, before Alabama became a word that tasted like fear. Somewhere behind her, a man's voice broke through the crowd, low and urgent. "They know. It's done." Claire didn't turn. She didn't have to. She knew that voice, James, steady, controlled, but with an edge that never quite hid the storm underneath. Her heart pounded so loudly it almost drowned out the sound of rolling luggage and calling children. She shifted her bag higher on her shoulder, trying to blend into the rhythm of movement. But she wasn't going anywhere, not yet. The PA crackled again. "Final boarding for Flight 237 to Birmingham." Her pulse froze. Birmingham. The word hit her like a whisper from the past. Home, and not home anymore. The place where her mother's laughter once filled their kitchen, where her brother's sneakers used to line the hallway, where one phone call shattered every fragile thing she had believed in. She closed her eyes, the noise of the terminal fading into a low hum. Her thoughts tumbled like broken glass. How far can revenge really go before it swallows everyone? A child brushed past her, giggling, holding a red balloon. It bobbed gently above his head, bright, innocent, untethered. For a second, Claire reached out, as if to touch it, but the balloon floated farther away, slipping into the crowd, lost among strangers. When she opened her eyes again, James was gone. Only the echo of his words lingered, tangled in the air. "They know. It's done." Claire's hands trembled as she glanced once more at the watch. The second hand twitched again, alive for a fraction of a moment, then stopped. Somewhere far away, thunder rolled, and she knew, without knowing how, that the real storm had just begun. Claire sat down on the cold metal bench near the window, the sound of rolling suitcases echoing faintly behind her. The cracked watch rested in her palm, its stillness unnerving. Outside, the plane she was boarding began to move, gliding slowly across the tarmac like something free, something she could never be. She turned the watch over, rubbing her thumb against the dent on the back, the one shaped like a crescent moon. Her father had dropped it years ago on their front porch in Montgomery. She'd been 8, barefoot, chasing fireflies while he fixed his old pickup. He'd laughed when she tried to help, his big, grease-stained hands guiding her smaller ones as they wound the stubborn gear back into place. "One day, you'll learn, Claire. Things break. You just keep fixing them till they don't anymore." Now the words cut differently. Things break. People, too. She glanced up, watching a mother reunite with her teenage son across the terminal. The boy's face lit up. The woman's eyes shimmered with tears. They held each other tightly, breathing relief. Claire looked away, her throat tightening. That used to be her family. Warm arms, loud voices, Sunday dinners, before whispers turned to threats, and love twisted into something unrecognizable. She exhaled, slow and shaky. The watch felt heavier now, like it carried every unanswered question she never dared to ask. "What did you do, Death? Why did James have to be part of it?" Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She didn't answer. The message blinked across the screen anyway. "Don't move. He's watching." Her breath caught. For a second, everything around her blurred, the chatter, the lights, the movement. She scanned the room, people everywhere, yet no one looked at her. Then, near the corner cafe, she noticed him, the stranger from earlier. He wasn't pretending to scroll through his phone anymore. He was just sitting there, elbows on knees, eyes fixed on her, not menacing, but intent, like someone waiting for her to understand something she couldn't yet see. She looked away quickly, heart pounding. Maybe she was imagining it. Maybe not. The announcement board flickered. Another delay. The words swam in front of her eyes. Flight 214. Delayed. The same number her father used to play every week in the lottery. Little coincidences that didn't feel little anymore. Her phone buzzed again. He knows about the watch. Leave it. Her fingers curled protectively around it. Instinctively, leave it. The idea felt wrong. This watch was the only piece of her father she had left, the man he used to be, not the one they said he became. She stood slowly, her knees weak but mind sharp. Across the terminal, the stranger rose. Their eyes met for a fleeting second, his expression unreadable, almost sad. Then Claire hesitated, her breath catching halfway between a step forward and a step back. The cracked watch ticked once, just once, and everything inside her stilled. Thunder cracked outside the glass, a low growl that made the windows tremble. The once golden light of sunset had vanished, replaced by a storm rolling over the horizon. Claire stood frozen, the terminal suddenly colder, emptier. The stranger hadn't moved. He stood near the cafe now, one hand in his pocket, the other gripping a small, worn wallet. Something about his stillness unnerved her. He wasn't watching her out of curiosity. It was something quieter, deeper. A recognition, maybe. Claire shifted her bag again, pretending to check her phone, but her gaze kept finding him. The storm outside deepened, rain streaking down the glass like tears on a mirror. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw her reflection beside his, two strangers trapped in the same ache. He turned slightly, just enough for her to notice the scuffed edges of his shoes, the frayed cuff of his jacket sleeve, the way his thumb brushed over something inside the wallet. When he set it down to pay for a coffee, the photo slipped halfway out, a little boy with bright eyes and a missing front tooth. The sight caught her off guard. She shouldn't care. She didn't even know him. But grief recognizes grief. When he looked up again, their eyes met, and this time, he didn't look away. He gave her the smallest, nod acknowledgement that said, "I see you." Her heart twisted. The last person who had looked at her that way had been her father, years before everything collapsed. The echo of that warmth hurt more than it comforted. Outside, thunder rumbled again, closer now. A flash of lightning illuminated his face for a split second, tired eyes, a faint scar near his temple. A man who had seen too much. Claire felt something inside her unravel. Maybe he wasn't just a stranger. Maybe he was part of the story she'd never been told. Her phone vibrated again. Another message. Don't trust him. He's one of them. Her breath hitched. One of them. Her gaze darted between the message and the man who was now slowly approaching, coffee in hand. His steps were careful, hesitant, like someone afraid of breaking the silence. Claire's pulse pounded in her ears. He knows about the watch. He's watching. The warning repeated in her mind, sharp and frantic. Claire. His voice was soft, uncertain, as if he wasn't sure she'd even answer. She didn't move, didn't speak. Outside, rain began to fall harder, beating against the windows in rhythmic waves. Her fingers closed around the cracked watch again, the cold metal grounding her. "Who are you?" she finally whispered. He hesitated long enough to make her question everything, and then said quietly, "Someone who owes your father a debt." The lights flickered. Somewhere behind them, an alarm buzzed faintly, and for the first time, Claire couldn't tell if she was being saved or set up. The rain had softened into a whisper, tapping against the tall windows like a heartbeat fading in and out. The terminal lights hummed low, casting long reflections on the wet floor. Most passengers had moved on, flights called, families reunited, noise replaced by echoes. Only a few lingered now, glancing curiously at the girl who stood frozen near gate 14, her suitcase forgotten beside her feet. Claire's breath came unevenly. She wanted to move, to leave, to vanish into the storm, but her legs refused. The stranger's words still clung to the air like fog. "Someone who owes your father a debt." "Don't," she whispered under her breath, as if saying it could undo everything. But when she looked up, he was still there, watching her quietly. The distance between them felt like miles and inches all at once. He stepped forward, slow, deliberate, eyes filled with something she couldn't name. Not pity, not threat, something closer to guilt. In his hand, her heart jolted. He was holding the cracked watch. She hadn't even noticed she'd dropped it. "I think this belongs to you," he said softly. His voice trembled, almost human. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. The watch's face caught the overhead light, the fractured glass scattering tiny reflections across his palm. It looked different, now less like a relic of her father's sins, more like a reminder that time, once broken, could never be perfectly fixed. She didn't take it right away. "You shouldn't have touched that." He gave a faint, hollow smile. "Some people carry more than just bags, Claire. They carry silence. I thought maybe you were tired of carrying yours alone." Her throat tightened. The words hit too close. She wanted to scream that he didn't understand that silence was safer than truth, but instead, she whispered, "You don't even know me." "Maybe not," he said, "but I knew him, and I know what revenge does to a person." That word revenge hung heavy between them, like the air before a storm. An older woman passing by paused, giving them a wary glance. Another traveler murmured something to a friend, eyes flicking toward Claire's trembling hands. Judgment lingered in their looks, soft but sharp. To them, she was just a girl coming undone, in an airport a story they'd forget by morning. Claire's chest ached. She took a step back, ready to turn, to walk away and let it all dissolve into memory. But her gaze dropped once more to the watch in his hand, and something in her stopped her. The second hand twitched alive again. Impossibly. She looked up, tears burning in her eyes. Why now? After all this time, he didn't answer. He just placed the watch gently on the bench between them, like an offering, and stepped back into the dim light. For a long moment, neither moved. Then the announcement echoed overhead, cold and final call for Flight 214, and Claire, standing there with the storm reflected in her eyes, couldn't tell if she was about to leave everything behind, or walk straight into it. The terminal had quieted into that strange hour between departures, when even the lights seemed to dim out of exhaustion. Claire stood at the window again, the cracked watch in her palm, its glass now reflecting flashes of lightning from outside. The stranger had walked away minutes ago, leaving her in the hollow space between choices. But something inside her shifted. "Someone who owes your father a debt." The words replayed, looping endlessly. Why would he say that? What kind of debt? Her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a message. It was an email notification. "Congratulations, Claire Thompson. We're pleased to invite you for an in-person interview at Weller Industries, Birmingham." Her stomach clenched. She stared at the name, frozen. Weller Industries, that was her father's old company, the one that went under after the scandal, the one people whispered had bought silence in the aftermath. Claire looked around sharply. The man was Gunnar, so she thought, until she noticed him standing by the exit, speaking quietly into his phone. He looked composed now, not like a stranger caught in the rain, but like someone used to being in control, someone who didn't belong among the tired passengers. When he turned slightly, his expression calm and deliberate, she noticed the embossed card he held. It bore a familiar logo. Her breath stopped. Weller Industries. Her fingers tightened around the watch. "No," she whispered to herself. "It can't be." A voice, quiet but certain, echoed in her memory. "Things break. You just keep fixing them till they don't anymore." Her father's voice. And suddenly, the truth began to form in the cracks. She followed the man through the corridor toward the side lounge. Her footsteps, quick but soundless. He stopped at a door marked "Authorized Personnel Only," tapped his card, and stepped inside. The door began to close behind him, but Claire slipped through before it latched. Inside, the air smelled faintly of leather and rain. The lights were softer here, the noise of the terminal muted. On the table sat an open folder, her name printed neatly on the top page. Beneath it, a photograph of her father, dated years before his death. She froze. The man turned slowly, his eyes weary. "You weren't supposed to see this yet," he said. "What is this?" Her voice cracked. "Why my name? Why him?" He sighed and reached into his jacket, pulling out something she didn't expect, the twin of her cracked watch. Only his wasn't broken. The same face, the same inscription. "It wasn't just your father's," he said quietly. "It was mine, too. They made them for us when we started the company. He took one, I kept the other." Claire's world tilted. The words, the lies, the years all collided. Thunder rolled again outside, deep and final. Her fingers trembled around the broken watch. "Things break, you just keep fixing 'em." She took one step forward, into the light spilling from his office doorway, into the truth that would change everything. The storm outside had quieted to a steady drizzle, soft and rhythmic against the glass walls. The airport lights flickered faintly, their glow washed pale by exhaustion and truth. Claire stood in the quiet office, her reflection blurred in the window, the cracked watch glinting weakly in her palm. Across from her, the man, no longer just a stranger, watched, with eyes that seemed older than the night itself. "I don't understand," she whispered, voice raw. "You said you owed my father a debt. What does that mean?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he picked up the other watch, the perfect twin to hers, and set it gently beside it. The two timepieces lay side by side, one broken, one whole, their hands frozen at different hours. Your father and I built something together," he finally said, voice thick with a history she could feel but not touch. "Weller Industries started as a promise, a way out for both of us. But greed crept in, so did pride. He took the fall for something I started." Claire's heart sank. "You mean, he wasn't the monster they made him out to be?" The man interrupted softly. "He was protecting someone else. Protecting me." The room seemed to shrink around her. Every memory of her father, the laughter, the lies, the silence rearranged itself. Painfully, beautifully, truthfully. "Why tell me this now?" she asked. "After all this time." He looked at her with something close to grief. "Because when I saw you tonight, I thought I saw my daughter again." Her breath caught. "She died 5 years ago," he said, eyes glistening. "Same eyes, same way you hold your anger like it's the only thing keeping you warm." The words struck deep, breaking something inside her she hadn't known was still whole. All the walls she'd built around her pain, her fear, her vengeance began to tremble. He took a step forward and held out the unbroken watch. "Take it. Time doesn't heal everything, but it helps you remember what matters." Claire stared at it, then shook her head. "No, I already have one that reminds me." She placed her cracked watch gently beside his, the two reflections trembling in the faint light. "You keep yours. I'll carry mine." For a long moment, neither spoke. Outside, thunder rolled one last time, low and distant, like the world exhaling. Then, quietly, he said, "You can still take the flight, start over. That's what your father wanted." Claire looked toward the glass wall again. The plane engines rumbled in the distance, the same sound from hours ago, but it no longer felt like escape. It felt like release. She turned to him, eyes softer now, voice steady. "Maybe some things aren't meant to be fixed. Maybe they're meant to be understood." He gave a faint, tired smile. "You sound just like him." Claire picked up her bag, leaving the watch behind on the table. As she walked toward the gate, the announcement echoed once more, "Final call for Flight 214." At the doorway, she paused and looked back. The man stood alone, the two watches gleaming under the muted light. Time itself watching them both let go. She walked into the storm's quiet end, the sound of her footsteps fading into the hum of the world reborn. Not every stranger you help is meant to stay, but some leave you changed forever. The rain had stopped by dawn. A pale light stretched across the streets outside the small motel window, washing everything in soft silver. Claire sat by the edge of the bed, still in yesterday's clothes, her hair loose and damp from the night's walk. The world felt different now, quieter, almost forgiving. The cracked watch lay on the nightstand beside her, its fractured glass catching the first hint of morning. It no longer ticked, but it didn't need to. Some things didn't mark time anymore. They held it, every wound, every forgiveness, every goodbye folded into one silent moment. She lifted it once more, tracing her father's initials faintly etched on the back. There had been anger, so much of it, years spent blaming ghosts that never answered back. But now, in the soft stillness of dawn, she felt something else take root: understanding. Downstairs, the smell of coffee drifted faintly through the air. A couple laughed near the vending machine. A bus honked in the distance. Life was moving, with or without her. She packed her small bag, neatly placing the cracked watch inside, not hidden, not displayed, just resting quietly among her clothes. Before zipping it shut, she whispered, "Sometimes love is not romance, it's recognition." It was something her mother used to say, back when she thought love could survive anything. Claire finally understood what it meant. The man at the airport hadn't given her closure, he'd given her context. The difference mattered. Outside, the sky was washed clean. Puddles glimmered like glass, and her reflection moved over them, no longer the same girl who had stood frozen under fluorescent lights. She walked slowly toward the station, her steps steady now, not hurried. For the first time in years, she wasn't running from anything. At the crosswalk, a little boy ran past her clutching a red balloon. It bounced lightly in the wind, the same color, the same innocence as the one she had seen floating away in the terminal. Only this time, she didn't reach for it. She smiled and let it go. Somewhere, a church bell rang. Somewhere, a train began to move. Claire turned her face toward the light, the wind brushing her hair gently aside. Life had not forgiven her father, but maybe she could, and in that quiet forgiveness, something within her unshackled. She didn't look back. The world stretched ahead, vast and open, because sometimes redemption isn't about finding peace in the past, but learning how to walk into the next morning without fear.